about madly. First it was angry, now it's mad. And I think he's using it in the sense of mad, in the sense of it's lost its mind. Okay, not the way we use it today. And seemed to be struggling to free itself from an agony. What's the agony that it wants to free itself from?
Losing.
Defeat. Exactly. They're losing. Who's losing? The rebels. Very good.
Men rushing swiftly emerged from it. They grew in numbers until it was seen that the whole command was fleeing. The flag suddenly sank down as if dying. Its motion as it fell was a gesture of despair.
What just happened? What happens when your flag goes to the ground? The last thing they wanted to do was let that flag hit the ground. And then it's over. You understand that? I don't know why. I don't know the thinking behind all of this in that era, but holding your flag, your colors up boldly for the enemy to see was a sign of triumph. Having it fall to the ground was a sign of defeat.
Wild yells came from behind the walls with smoke. A sketch in gray and red dissolved into a mob-like body of men who galloped like wild horses. The veteran regiments on the right and left of the 304th immediately began to jeer. With the passionate song of the bullets and the banshee shrieks of shells were mingled loud catcalls and bits of facetious advice concerning places of safety.
Facetious. Good word. Facetious. Facetious. Advice concerning places of safety. Notice how everything's talking. The regiment jeered. The bullets sang. The shells shrieked. And the men gave catcalls and facetious advice concerning places of safety. Do you get the imagery here? Hey, that's a really good place to hide, right over there. Just stand up real tall. See what they're doing. It's sarcasm. It's like when the other team's losing and you throw a little salt into the wound. Like, oh, good hit, when they miss, or ooh, nice save, and they blew it. Way to dig, and they didn't even get off of the ground, get towards the ground in any way. Nice save, and it wasn't a save at all. Oh, nice serve, and it went out of bounds. Those are the things that you think in your head that you might not say. Well, men say them in war. It's like, oh, take that. You don't like that? Take this.
Well, no, we say, just not to their faces.
That's why we don't get the sportsmanship award.
No, we yelled in practice.
We what?
We yell at each other
In practice? So you know what I'm saying? You're just too serious today. Poor thing. Okay.
But the new regiment was breathless with horror. Man, Saunders got crushed, whispered the man at the youth's elbow. They shrank back and crouched as if compelled to await a flood.
I'm glad you did that. So, okay. There's been some conversation, and we're okay with most of the language in the book so far. But using God's name just flippantly, I'm not comfortable with. And one of your fellow students came to me and wasn't comfortable with it. And we agreed, yeah. If you come to the GAWD word, change it if you want to. If you're not comfortable at all, please don't. Don't feel compelled to say it the way it is. So she took GAWD and made it man. Good job, Amber.
The youth shot a swift glance along the blue ranks of the regiment. The profiles were motionless, carven, and afterward he remembered that the color... Is that Sergeant was standing with his legs apart as if he expected to be pushed to the ground.
Carven's a good word. I bet we don't know what carven means. C-A-R-V-E-N. So what's a color sergeant?
It's a sergeant that holds the flag.
The sergeant that holds the flag. Very good.
The following throng went whirling around the flank. Here and there were officers carried along on the stream like exasperated ships. They were striking about them with their swords and with their left fists, punching every head they could reach. They cursed like highwaymen. A mounted officer displayed the furious anger of a spoiled child. He raged with his head, his arms, and his legs.
Hold on a second. So so here is why I keep referring to this childish stuff, is the fact that he brings it in, the furious anger of a spoiled child. For some reason, he keeps reminding us, and I think perhaps that those who are involved in this regiment are still children at heart, the kids. You look at yourself and you realize, okay, at 18 I'm an adult, right? At 16 I can drive, at 18 I can vote, I'm an adult, I'm grown up. At 21 I can take a drink if I want to, I'm growing up, right? You're kids. Just face facts. The sooner you admit that, the better off you're going to be. You may be approaching maturity and growing and learning and developing and maturing, yes, but you're still a kid. Until you hit your 30s, I think you're a kid. As I look back, I go, I was dumber than a box of rocks at that age. I made so many stupid decisions that it was amazing. And you're possibly going to do it too. I hope you don't, but you're a child. How much time we got there, Austin? Got your eyes on that clock, don't you? 2 minutes.
Another, the commander of the brigade, was galloping about bawling. His hat was gone and his clothes were awry. He resembled a man who has come from bed to go to a fire. The hoofs of his horse often threatened the heads of the running men, but they scampered with singular fortune. In this rush they were apparently all deaf and blind. They heeded not the largest and longest of the oaths that were thrown at them from all directions. Frequently over this tumult could be heard the grim jokes.
You don't want to follow along and read?
Frequently over this tumult could be heard the grim jokes of the critical veterans, but the retreating men apparently were not even conscious of the presence of an audience. The battle reflection that shone for an instant in the faces on the mad current made the youth feel that forceful hands from heaven would not have been able to have held him in place if he could have got intelligent control of his legs. There was an appalling imprint upon these faces. The struggle and the smoke had pictured an exaggeration of itself on the bleached cheeks and in the eyes wild with one desire. The sight of this stampede exerted a flood-like force that seemed able to drag sticks and stones and men from the ground. They of the reserves had to hold on. They grew pale and firm and red and quaking. The youth achieved one little thought in the midst of this chaos. The composite monster which had caused the other troops to flee had not then appeared. He resolved to get a view of it, and then he thought he might very likely run better than the best of them.
Okay, so troops are fleeing, and he says, if I was among them, I'd be running, I would be one of the fastest. Where do you think you're going? Next time you bother my class like that for such a...
Oh, snap.
That girl has attitude. Do you have her next?